Most people know the monsters because of Labubu, the mischievous little elf with 9 teeth and pointy ears. But long before the collectible figures and global popularity, the monsters began as a fantasy world created by Hong Kong artist Kasing Lung in 2015. Today, it's best known through its collaboration with Pop Mart, but the characters actually originate from a trilogy of children's picture books. In this video, I want to share the stories that started it all. I was lucky enough to get a hold of the 2026 Hong Kong reprint of the Monsters Trilogy, and after also visiting the 10th anniversary art exhibition here in Japan, I thought this would be a perfect opportunity to introduce the original lore and stories behind Labubu and her friends. Out of respect for the original work, I'll be retelling the stories in my own words rather than reading or translating them directly, and I'll avoid showing complete pages or presenting the books in their entirety. Kasing did state that they plan to release this trilogy worldwide in different languages, so hopefully you'll be able to get your hands on the book when that happens. Quick overview. Kasing Lung was born in Hong Kong before moving to the Netherlands as a child. Growing up there, he became deeply influenced by European and American picture books, especially stories involving monsters, elves, spirits, and other supernatural creatures. In the afterword to the trilogy, Kasing explains that one memory stayed with him for years. During a school trip in Scotland, an innkeeper told them the local legend about Mr. Bagpipe and the Goat Man. The story eventually inspired his first picture book, The Story of Puka. He followed it with Pato and the Girl, then Miro's Requiem, completing what is now known as the Monsters Trilogy. 2 years later, in 2017, he partnered with Pop Mart, introducing these characters to an entirely new audience. Who are the monsters? The Monsters is a fairy tale world set within a mythical Nordic forest. The stories explore very human themes such as family, love, friendship, sacrifice, guilt, regret, and compassion through the eyes of magical beings. Although the franchise is called The Monsters, the characters themselves are usually described in English as elves, so that's how I'll refer to them throughout this video. The most recognizable of these is Labubu. Despite becoming the face of the franchise, Labubu isn't actually the protagonist for these books. Instead, she serves more as an observer, a side character guiding the reader through the stories as they unfold. I like to think of her as a traveler moving from one tale to the next. The forest itself is home to many different types of elves, each with their own communities, personalities, groups, and traditions. What makes these stories especially interesting is that the elves aren't all-knowing. They're fascinated by humans, but they don't fully understand them. Human emotions often confuse them, leading to moments that are sometimes heartwarming, tragic, and occasionally unsettling. While Pop Mart has expanded the monsters with many new characters, seasonal collections, and original stories throughout the years, this video is going to focus on the 3 picture books that started everything. The Story of Puka. In a small town, there was a musician nicknamed Mr. Bagpipe who played his instrument outdoors each day, much to the dismay of his fellow villagers since he wasn't very good. He lived together with his loving mother who would make him warm soup that would erase all his woes. One night, while out on a walk, a mysterious Puka appeared. Puka was especially good at making bargains with humans and handed Mr. Bagpipe a contract that promised him a chance to change his life, but at the cost of giving up the most important thing in his life. Without a second thought, Mr. Bagpipe signed it and immediately collapsed into the mist. He thought it was all a dream when he woke up in bed the next day. However, from that day on, his music suddenly captivated audiences. He chose the path of fame and fortune, but with traveling all over to perform, Mr. Bagpipe no longer had time to spend with his mother. One night, Puka appeared again and asked Mr. Bagpipe to fulfill the contract. So confident in his newfound life, he replied that no matter what he had to give up, surely it would be worth it. Day after day, life continued as usual, till one day, when he was performing on a stage, a neighbor from his hometown arrived to tell him that his mother had vanished. No amount of money or effort was able to help them find her. Mr. Bagpipe rushed to the place where he first met Puka and begged Puka to bring his mother back, but Puka replied coldly, "It's already too late." From that day on, Mr. Bagpipe never saw Puka again. Thoughts. This story has several possible interpretations, but one interpretation is that Mr. Bagpipe lost sight of what was truly most important in his life, the time he could have spent with his mother. Rather than Puka explicitly causing this outcome, The story can be read as Mr. Bagpipe gradually choosing fame over spending time with his mother, until one day it was too late. Was Puka responsible for the mother's disappearance, or was the real tragedy that Mr. Bagpipe had already traded away the most irreplaceable item he could have given? Pato and the Girl. Deep in the mountains lives an elf named Pato, who encounters a young girl one day while out wandering through a mountain valley. It was love at first sight, and despite only having met her for a fleeting moment, he could not forget her and resolved to win her affection. Despite pouring his heart out to her, the girl gently turned him down. Pato never gave up though, and he started studying human behavior and love itself. Once he had felt that he understood humans, he tried a new, more persistent approach, but was rejected all the same. Pato learned that she had already fallen in love and was soon to be married. Fueled by disappointment and jealousy, Pato decided to use a magic potion from ancient myth to make the girl fall in love with him. However, when he slipped it into her drink, the outcome was not what he had expected. Instead of falling in love with him, she fell into a state of mental collapse. Filled with deep remorse and guilt, Pato resolved to seek out the master of magic who lived at the furthest reaches of the world in an attempt to help find a cure. It was a dangerous journey, but Pato endured and eventually reached the master. However, the master revealed that the spell was irreversible, and a distraught Pato flew into a rage and thrashed everything around him. As punishment, the master struck him down with a strong bolt of lightning. Wandering back without purpose, Pato was filled with sorrow and despair. He eventually arrived at the yard before the girl's home, and that's where he realized the truth. The lightning strike had sent him into a slumber for decades, and the young girl had grown up into an elderly woman with silver hair. Her husband loved her for who she was, never once minding her condition and caring for her with unwavering devotion. This is where Pato came to a profound realization. The true nature of love isn't about possessing or becoming infatuated with somebody, it's about bringing happiness and joy to the one you love and cherish. Thoughts. I think this is a cute story of love that couldn't be. Pato's intentions initially feel so pure, resolving to learn everything he could about humans, showing love as a motivation for self-improvement. It helps paint the picture that the monsters aren't human and that there are things that they don't fully understand, and that time and aging works different for them as poor Pato ends up sleeping for several decades. I like that the consequence of his actions is more like an educational lesson for him than truly a punishment. Miro's Requiem. Two people named John and Mac wash up on a deserted island. There was no food on the island, and the two started to suffer from hunger. One night, Mac heard beautiful music drifting from the distance, and he followed it to find a gathering of elves around a table covered with delicious food. They sang and danced together in great joy, and their leader was a large elf named Miro. They were very hospitable and invited Mac to join them. After a lavish dinner, Mac wanted to bring some food back for John, but Miro refused and told Mac not to tell John anything that had transpired. When Mac returned, he saw John weak from hunger and felt deeply guilty. The following night, the beautiful music drifted through the air once again, and Mac once more followed it and found the elves celebrating around the table of food. And again, Mac was told to keep it a secret as they saw him off after the celebration. Mac spent several joyous nights in this way. Meanwhile, John had starved to death after going so long without food. Strangely, after John died, Mac never heard the Requiem again. After some time, the familiar music once again could be heard in the distance. Although Mac was hungry and exhausted, he followed the sound. When he arrived, he found the elves singing and dancing just as before, only this time there was no food. Confused, Mac asked Miro about the food, but Miro told him that the food would never be provided again. After being pressed for answers, Miro revealed the truth. On the first night they had drifted onto the island, John had heard the Requiem. Miro also prepared delicious dishes for John, with the only condition being that he had to keep it a secret. When John asked if he'd be able to take food back for Mac, Miro told him no. Unwilling to enjoy a meal by himself, John decided not to eat a single bite. At that moment, Mac finally realized that what he had eaten was not merely food. It was the trust and friendship that he had shared with John. Mac was overcome with sorrow and guilt. He looked up and silently gazed at a beautiful star-filled sky. Thoughts. The third story is the most open to interpretation, as it never states its moral outright. This is a classic temptation tale, and I like that Mac is still alive at the end, left to live with his regrets. I think the title Requiem has several layers of meaning. Most obviously, it becomes John's funeral song after he dies, but it also serves as a requiem for the friendship between the two boys, when Mac realized he sacrificed in exchange for the feast. By the end, the music is gone, the feast has disappeared, all that remains is remembrance and reflection. Closing. Going into these books, I expected simple fairy tales about magical creatures and wonderful art. And while the art is absolutely beautiful and really inspiring, what I found instead about the stories were that they were very human and based in emotion. The time we lost with people we love, the difference between infatuation and genuine love, and the difficult choices that reveal who we truly are. One thing that surprised me was how little these stories tried to tell the reader what to think. None of them end with a narrator explaining the moral. Instead, Kasing Lung leaves us just enough unanswered that you're encouraged to reflect upon the character's decisions long after you finished reading it. For the 10th anniversary, Kasing created a map for the Monster Land, although it was mentioned that this was a special creation that merged together time and space of the stories of the trilogies. We could see the village square where Mr. Bagpipes performed, and even the deserted island where John and Mac were left stranded. If you've only known the monsters through pop-up art figures, which I adore myself, I hope this video has given you a glimpse into the world that they originally came from. A lot of the side characters have become main characters in their own regard and are very popular in the toy releases. I hope this video has given you a glimpse into the world that they originally come from. And if you ever get the chance to read the books for yourself, I highly recommend experiencing them firsthand. Thank you for watching and see you next time.